this week, it's the 2049 edition, or 2049 edition, or 2049 edition, or 204 plus 9 edition? Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's 2049. Yeah. You probably figure out what that means. Plus there's lists and other stuff, yeah, too. So let's get to it. Brought to you by the Third Guy. Hi, the Good Movie Guy, and this week on BMG Radio, we're talking 2049, and of course that means Blade Runner 2049. Now, I wanted to have this out last week, but I got busy with life. So it's a bit later than I wanted it to be, but it's okay. That's fine. So let's get to it. Right off the top, we're going to talk about Blade Runner 2049, then we'll get to all the regular stuff. This movie, oh my lord. Yeah. I don't know. I love this movie. This is gorgeous. Like, it's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Cinematically, like, Roger Deakins, who's the cinematographer, is just, if he doesn't win Oscar for this, Oscars, I hate Oscars, but he should still win one because it's the best cinematography of the year, of several years. It's amazing. So let's just get to it. The quick recap of the story is, if you don't know, Blade Runner was a movie. It's from the 80s. It's about replicants that are basically android type people that we use as slave labor. And if they come on, like, there's problems with them. If there is, they send this guy who's a Blade Runner after them. Never say why it's called Blade Runner, and there's a whole story about that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But basically, they're cops that basically hunt down these synthetic people. And Harrison Ford is a Blade Runner in the original. This takes place 30 years after the original would in chronological order. And there's this guy named Kay who's a Blade Runner who's hunting down replicants, and they're still using replicants, but they've changed things about them, so now they can't. Back in the day, they could not obey. They didn't have to obey. Now they have to. They don't have to. Like, it's in their programming. They have to do what you're told. So you could say punch yourself in the face, and they would punch themselves in the face if that's what you told them to do. And he basically is doing his job, and then he finds some things that lead him to a mystery, which leads him to a big thing. And let's just say, okay, when this year started, okay, and I've been hearing about Blade Runner sequels forever, and I've watched Blade Runner I don't know how many times, and when it's funny because Blade Runner just started with the first movie. I'm going to be talking about it a bit later, but when you watch it the first time, if you're young, it's not as that impressive, and it didn't impress me when I first watched it. But the more I've watched it, I've probably watched it around 6 or 7 times now, and every time there's something new, and every time it impresses me that much more than it did last time. So like now I think it's a brilliant movie, but when I first watched it, I really was like, oh, it was good, yeah, here's Ford, cool, yeah. So with that, this takes all the coolness and everything from that first one, makes it a bit more accessible, I think. But also doesn't mess with it. Like, what I was thinking was, when I was told Blade Runner sequel beginning of the year, I was like I'd heard about them, thinking about doing this forever, and I was just like, I don't need a Blade Runner sequel. I really don't. I don't want a Blade Runner sequel. I had no interest in a Blade Runner sequel. I was just like, it's been too long. Why would they want to? And then I heard finally they're doing it, and I was just like, oh, fine, whatever. And then I heard Denis Villeneuve is directing it, and this is a fellow Canadian. I love this guy's work. He's done Sicario, Prisoners, a movie called Enemy, recently Arrival, which I think is one of the best movies of last year. And I heard he was doing it, and then Roger Deakins was cinematography, and I was immediately sold. Even if, like, I had no clue what the script was. And so I was like, okay. And then I saw the first preview trailer, and it just, I was on board. And before I knew it, it was the movie I wanted most. And it is fantastic. Literally fantastic. I'm not going to go more in the plot. I'm just going to say, I think it is, that was me cracking my knuckles. It is long, but I didn't feel it being that long. I didn't feel it, you know what I mean? Actually, it's funny because like I warned my daughters. I said, hey, because I took my daughters to see it. Obviously, take a shot if you're playing at home. That it's a 2 hour and 40 minute movie, and my oldest daughter turned to me at the end one. She goes, "That wasn't 2 hours and 40 minutes. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was." She goes, "No, it wasn't." And so it's like she's like, "I totally didn't feel that long," and I'm like, that's because it's good. I have a couple friends that have told me they think it's a little boring in parts. I was riveted the entire time. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. And yeah, it's one of the best movies of the year. There's still one movie I think is better. But other than that, it's one of the best movies of the year, easily. And it goes without saying, it's 5 out of 5. So, go see Blade Runner. Didn't make enough money at the box office, apparently. I have no clue why. And I'm not going to go into that. I just go see it. And go see it on a big screen if you can. Next up, we got Trailer of the Week. So, everyone's going to be like, Star Wars is the Trailer of the Week. And you know what? That's not my Trailer of the Week. And here, I'll tell you exactly why at the top. Because it's the Star Wars trailer. It's like the third Star Wars trailer. I'm already ready for Star Wars. I don't need any more. Now, it was a fine trailer and it didn't give away too much, but still, it's not my Trailer of the Week. Same as Justice League. Justice League had their last trailer, I hope, and it looked cool. Had a cool soundtrack, you know. They used heroes in there and stuff. But it's not my Trailer of the Week because, again, it's the third trailer. I'm already on board. It's like, so I want to talk about a new trailer that is for a movie. It's a sequel, but the trailer came out and it tells me just enough again about the movie that made me interested in the movie, and that is Pacific Rim 2. I think it's called Uprising. And if I love Pacific Rim, if you don't know, I love it. It's great. It's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite movies from Guillermo del Toro because it just made me feel like a child. Made me feel like I was watching Star Wars again, like when I was a kid. And so now, fortunately, he's not directing this one, so I'm not thrilled with that. But he's producing, so that's good. And some of the main cast from the first one aren't back, which I'm not thrilled with. But again, a lot of it was scheduling conflicts, from what I understand. So I'm not going to hold that against them. But the trailer came out, and there's like a bunch of Jaegers, and there's a bunch of kaijus all beating the crap out of each other. Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah. And it's got John Boyega. I like John Boyega. He's come a long way since Attack on the Block. So, yeah, Pacific Rim 2 is my Trailer of the Week. Please check it out. The links are in below. And let me know. Are you excited about Pacific Rim 2? Or are you just like, I don't know. Like, I loved the first one. You might not have liked the first one. I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking. Especially if you didn't like the first one. But let me know. Either way. But that's my Trailer of the Week. Next up, we have Netflixing, but we don't. No, I finished Mr. Robot. I think I might have said that last week. I can't even remember anymore. But it's a great show. Finished the first 2 seasons. Watch that. But I haven't watched any Netflixy things because I've been busy. So, yeah. Next up, we got the top 10. So, every week we're doing top 10 of a year. This year is 2006 that we're doing. It was 2007 last week. The week before it was 2008. We've worked our way back from 2010. We're working our way backwards. So, this week, 2006. Now, I'm going to talk quickly, and I think I'm going to do this maybe from now on if I'm smart enough and organized enough to do this, where I'm just going to mention what the Oscars were, because I don't like the Oscars, but everyone talks about the Oscars, so some of the ones that are in the top 5 list for the Oscars, or however many there are that year, quite often aren't in my top 10. So, this, in 2006, which is really the 2007 Oscars, but 2006, there was The Queen, Little Miss Sunshine, Letters from Iwo Jima, Babel, and The Departed were the top 5 picks of movies from that year. Only one of those is in my top 10, and it's, I'll let you in right now, it's not The Departed. So, with that, yeah, let's get to my top 10. Now, I'll mention some ones that didn't quite make it, that were close. So, some of the best movies of that year that didn't make my top 10 are Blood Diamond, Talladega Nights, you can't beat that comedy, it's great. Lucky Number 11, The Host, the Korean movie, not the terrible teen alien movie. I don't know when year that came up on, but I'm not talking about that one. Flag of Our Fathers from Clint Eastwood. Little Miss Sunshine, which did get nominated for an Oscar, but didn't win. The Illusionist. The Departed. I like The Departed, but it's also a remake of a good film, so it had a lot going for it already. Stranger Than Fiction and Rescue Dawn with Christian Bale. Those are all ones that almost made, that's the kind of round out the top 20, but they didn't. So, getting to the top 10 movies of 2006. Here we go. Number 10, 300. Yep. This movie blew my mind when it came out. Now, you may be like, yeah, well, it does this and it does that. I don't care. This movie is phenomenal in a lot of ways, and it has abs all over the place. And yeah, it's been recreated a million times since then, but it was doing something kind of newish at the time, and I like the performances. Gerard Butler, Michael Fassbender, it's got a bunch of good guys in there. And it's just, 300, Zack Snyder. It's very stylized violence, but I think it's a movie that's inspired a heck of a lot of other movies and has held up pretty well. It's now 10 years old and it still looks really good. I think it does, at least. So, saying that, number 9, Rocky Balboa. Yeah, a Rocky film. Yeah, Rocky Balboa is the first time I saw it, I was amazed. It's lost a little bit of a step since then, but it's still really good. This is it's kind of the film that he was ending his Rocky career on before Creed came out. Now, Creed will not say it's a Rocky movie; it's a Creed movie, but he's in it. But as a closing note to the Rocky franchise, I think Sylvester Stallone knew he couldn't leave in on Rocky 5 because Rocky 5 was such a big disappointment for everybody, including himself. And this was just one last thing, and he has a great speech in the middle of the movie. He looks super buff. I like how it shows how broken the character is since his wife has died. And it's just a really solid film. I couldn't believe, that's a great way to end the series. Again, this is before Creed came out, so it was a very high note to end the series on. And it brought a lot of catharsis, closure, all that stuff, therapeutic rapport. You'll get that joke if you work with me. Anyways, moving on. Number 8, Fearless. Yes, this is not the Jeff Bridges movie from years and years ago. This is 2006's Fearless, which is a Jet Li movie. And is just fantastic. It looks great. The fight choreography is amazing. The story is interesting. It's got some really good acting. Jet Li, he can super act when he wants to. I know he can kick ass like a madman, but when he wants to act, he can act. And this is a movie where he kicks ass, but he also acts really well. Going on to number 7. Number 7! The Flying Scotsman. Oh, yeah. This is a movie most people don't even know about. It stars Johnny Lee Miller. There we go. I don't know. Who currently is on Elementary, if you've seen the Elementary show. He was also on Hackers, which, I loved him from then on. But he's playing a guy named Graham Oberon, who's a Scottish guy that literally just wants to be the fastest man on a bike alive. And he's the guy that changed biking, cycling. He changed the posture of the sport. You know how people put their hands out now, like they're Superman kind of? He's the guy that invented that. And the biking industry hated him, but he broke some world records. And yeah, it's just, I got a text, sorry. So, yeah, it's a great movie. It has Brian Cox in it too, and Billy Boyd. So it's got a really good cast. Tells a really good story. Plus, he suffered from depression, so he has struggles through that while he's trying to break the record. Solid movie. Needs to be seen by more people. All right, number 6, Casino Royale. Yes, a Bond movie. Wow, man, this reinvigorated the Bond franchise for a little bit there. And I say that because the next Bond movie that came out of that was just oh, and we're back to crappy Bond movies. But this was just oh, new take on Bond, yay. It's trying to bring it up to code with the Jason Bourne movies, and that's what it was doing. And it was great. It's, Eva Green, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Daniel Craig is great as James Bond, and you got Dame Judi Dench. There we go. As M. It's great. It's a scaled back, not saving the entire world from an explosion kind of movie, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was really well made and really done well. And it started. There's that, and then they did the one after, and then Skyfall was good, and then the Spectre. But at least it started off really strong, and can't blame anything that came after it on it. As a movie, incredibly solid, good movie. All right, number 5, one of the ones that made the Oscar list, Letters from Iwo Jima. This is directed by Clint Eastwood, but it's mostly done with Japanese actors in Japanese, and it's all about their stand on Iwo Jima. It's a companion piece to Flags of Our Fathers. Flags of Our Fathers is the American side of the attack of Iwo Jima. This is the Japanese side of the attack of Iwo Jima, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's World War II history. But it's such a well-made movie. It's done mostly in black and white, and it just looks at the Japanese side. And it's interesting. Is it a Japanese movie because an American made it? And so does that make it a Japanese movie if an American makes it, but most of the cast is Japanese and speaks Japanese? I will leave that for the comments. Please let me know what you think. Is that an American movie or a Japanese movie? Because if a Japanese movie man makes an American movie, or makes a movie with all English-speaking cast, does that make it any? I don't know. You tell me. But it is phenomenal. It looks at just the culture of the Japanese and what a different war that was from fighting the Germans. And it's a story that needed to be told. I think Clint Eastwood did a really, really stellar job telling it. All right. Number 4, The Lives of Others. Now, this won an Oscar that year for Best Foreign Language. Let me check. I believe it did. Let's go down the list. Yep, The Lives of Others. It beat out... it beat out After the Wedding, Days of Glory, Pan's Labyrinth, and Water, which is a Canadian film, which, if it's a Canadian film, I don't think it's a foreign language film, probably because it's in French, but still. Lives of Others is set in East Germany? East Germany. Before the wall came down, and it's basically about these people who are kind of being revolutionaries, and the man who's listening in on them for the government, who then becomes slowly sympathetic towards them because he just he has no life of his own, and he kind of falls in love with these people as being the people they are. It's a really, really well-made movie. It is in German, so you're going to have to read subtitles unless you speak German. If you speak German, booyah, it's like Guten Tag. But it is so well acted and so well made and told, and it's just, I came away going, wow, that was a great movie. And it's really just a terrific film. So, number 3, The Children of Men. Wow. I have trouble saying this director's name. I really do, because it's I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna say he made a sci-fi film about no one being born anymore that became an epic masterpiece, and it's just phenomenal. And it has a one shot in it that is so confusing and awesome. There's a couple of them actually that the first time I saw it, the first couple of times, I didn't even realize it was one take. It was all one shot, and it's just what? That was one shot? And then it was pointed out to me, and I was like, wow, that was one shot. They did that, it spins around through a car, and it does this incredible thing. It's a really well-told story. It has a great cast. You got Chiwetel Ejiofor, Clive Owen, Julianne Moore. It's one of the best sci-fi films in the last 20 years. And but it's not the best movie that year, because there's 2 other movies I thought were better. All right, number 2, Pan's Labyrinth. Yes, Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece. I flip-flop with this in number 1. At any given moment, they could be switched, and this could be number 1, and that could be number 2. But right now, I'm feeling it the other way. But Pan's Labyrinth is heartbreakingly ugly and beautiful at the same time. It is so personal and so tragic and so beautiful and so fairy tale-esque. It's just, it hurts. It breaks my heart in several ways, but in a good way. And Yeah, it's just his amazing thing. Now I'm going to talk about Guillermo del Toro in a couple minutes, and yeah, it didn't win for best foreign language. Lives of Others beat it. I would put it above Lives of Others, obviously. But yeah, it is so good. If you've never seen Pan's Labyrinth, I highly recommend it. It's got some brutal moments, and it's got some amazing moments, and it's just a film that everybody needs to see. But the number one movie of that year that I feel is the number one movie is A Battle of Magicians. Number one, The Prestige. Nolan, baby. Christopher Nolan. You got okay, Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, David Bowie, Michael Caine. Oh, like it is just, and Ricky Jay's in there too. Like, you know, it is such a good film, and Scarlett Johansson's in there too. Like there's so many people in this movie that are great. The storytelling is fantastic. The cinematography and the way it's filmed, and the score is great too. Everything about this movie is perfect, and it just like the reveal. Like, no one's known for his reveals at the end, and it just. The first time I saw it, it blew my mind, and ever since then, I've just loved it. I think it's one of his underappreciated movies. It goes kind of under the radar. People forget when they talk about Nolan. They talk about The Dark Knight and Inception and all that kind of stuff. But The Prestige is just a fantastic movie. And I put it as my number one film of 2006. Yeah. So, let me know, what are your top films of that year? And I will link my list for you can see the entire thing. That year, I have watched, hold on, let me go through the list. This is music that I'm filling in for you. 106 films that year. I didn't watch them that year. I watched 106 films from that year. If you're wondering, the worst one is Snakes on a Train, which has a great blooper reel, but is a terrible movie. But yeah, so I'm going to link my list in the below. If you want to click to it, it will show you all 106 movies, where I rank them. And then you can tell me I'm wrong. Next up, we have Letterboxd. So, I watched a bunch of movies since last time because it's been like a week and a half since I did one of these things. So, just bear with me and we'll go through them quick. So, I was at work and we got to put a movie on. So, I ended up watching Justice League versus Teen Titans. Fun movie. That's all I'm going to say. Fun movie. I enjoyed it. Good. I give it 4 beards out of 5. For an animated flick from DC, it's very good. Next up, we watched Blade Runner, which I had to show my daughters to get them prepped for the new one, and I can't say enough about Blade Runner. I have a review of Blade Runner if you're interested. Now, the only thing I'm going to tell you different is last time I watched this movie, I gave it 4.5 beards out of 5. Now I give it 5. And again, I think that's going to, the more times I watch it, the more times I kind of see things that I didn't see before. And the last time I watched it, I was like, yeah, 4.5 beards. And this time I was like, oh, 5. And then when I looked back, I was like, oh, I gave it 4.5. And I'm like, no, I feel like it's a 5 now. So that's the only difference. But I'm going to link my review in the information below. If you want to watch it, go nuts. If you don't, then don't worry about it. So, but it's a movie everyone should see. Next up, October, we always do scarier movies. We try and do scary movies, and mostly... which I introduced my girls to last year. Like, we started watching scary movies. So with that, every month we watch a Hitchcock film. So we started with The Birds. We've been saving The Birds specifically for October, and The Birds is fantastic. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and every time it gets better, and every time I appreciate it a bit more. It's Hitchcock's monster movie, and it's his look at trying to turn something mundane, such as birds, into evil things. And he succeeds, just as Hitchcock succeeds in everything he tries to do. It's great. And, yeah, it's one of those movies everyone should see. It's scary, but not too scary. It's gripping, and just the characters are really great. So, I give it 5 out of 5. 5 beards out of 5. It's a fantastic movie. Next up, we watched Halloween, the first one. This was a big thing. We were trying to do this last year. We were about to watch Halloween, and then we didn't get to, and I was very upset about that. So I made sure that one of the first things we did this year was watch Halloween, because we weren't going to be around. I'm going away in the end of the month, so I wasn't going to be around to watch it then, so I watched it at the beginning of the month. John Carpenter's Halloween. Fantastic movie. One of the best slasher films of all time. I give it 4 out of 5. and they're doing a sequel that expunges all the other movies and just like apparently with Jamie Lee Curtis, so it's like none of them past the first one exists. So even the second one, which he did, he's like, no, that's not canon anymore. This is going to be canon. Cool. I'm down for that. I haven't seen most of the other ones anyway, so it's fine. So yeah, it's Halloween. Next up, you'll see a Guillermo del Toro theme here, and there's a reason for that. We watched Blade 2. Blade 2 is light years better than Blade 1, and I like Blade 1. Blade 1 is a good movie, but Blade 2 just does so many things better, and it just looks better. The fights are better, and other than that opening club scene, it's just a better movie. And it's Guillermo del Toro. It's got better characters, and I just love it. I think it's great, and I wish the third one would have been nearly as good as it, but it wasn't. I give it 4 out of 5. 4 beards out of 5. Next up, Kronos. Now, Kronos was Guillermo del Toro's, and I always go, Guillermo del Toro. And I put my fingers out like I'm ordering food. I don't know why. I just do. Guillermo del Toro, it's his first movie he ever did, his first full movie. He did some smaller movies, but like a full-length feature film. It was the first one he ever did in Mexico, mostly in Spanish. There's some English because Ron Perlman doesn't speak Spanish, and there's a funny story behind that, but you can watch the thing if you want to. It's his take on vampires. It's a different take on vampires, and it's a very personal story, and it's just it's not a scary vampire story compared to like many vampire stories, but it's light years ahead of other vampire stories where people sparkle. So yeah, it's great, and I give it 4 out of 5. 4 beards out of 5. Next up, we went and saw Blade Runner 2049. We've already talked about that. 5 beards out of 5. We're gonna move on. That night, my wife surprised me. We were going to watch a movie together, and she picked The Shining. Now, this is surprising because she told me she would never, ever, 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 ever watch The Shining. And every time I asked her why, she just would say, I just don't want to ever see it. And so it was like me and her were just watching a movie together, and she's like, let's watch The Shining. And I was like, what the? Okay. And we watched The Shining. And it is great. If you don't know that, The Shining is Kubrick's scary masterpiece of a film. It's not a perfect film, but again, it's like many of these other films. The more I watch it, the more I appreciate it. So the first time I watched The Shining, I thought it was good. Now I think it's great. Jack Nicholson's performance is fantastic. The kid's pretty good too. He does a really good job. And just the direction and just the choice of everything is so Kubrick. So yeah, I give it 4.5 beards out of 5. Fantastic movie. Then we watched Crimson Peak, which is a Guillermo del Toro film. I haven't actually seen this one. I got it cheap, thankfully, when HMV was going out of business in Canada, and I hadn't seen it. But it's more of a gothic romance. It's not a straight up horror. So there's ghosts, but they're not trying to hurt you. They're more warning about things, and it is beautiful. Like, it just looks gorgeous. The costumes, the cinematography, the house, it just looks great. It's a well-told story. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's 4 out of 5 for me. 4 beards out of 5. I love it. And it's got great like casting. It's like, Tom, what's his name? Loki. I was gonna say Tom Holland. I'm like, that's Spider-Man. Flip. I just forgot how to say his name. Tom something or other. Hiddleston. There we go. I'm going to leave this in. It's great. Tom Hiddleston. Plus Jessica Chastain. And yeah, it's a really good cast, and it's just a well-told story. Next up, I saw Need for Speed while I was at work. I put it on for some guys that were there. And you know what? As video game movies go, it's good. It really is. It's stupid fun entertainment with some really nice looking cars. And I give it 3 beards out of 5. It could be so much worse than it is, and it could be better, but it's a video game film about car racing. What do you want? It was pretty decent. As video game movies go, it's probably in the top 10 best video game movies of all time. Because video game movies suck, as we all know. Now, next up, on Friday the 13th, we have 3 Friday the 13th movies, and I give a big shout out to my buddy CP who sent these to me a while back, and we've watched them all. And but my daughters have since fallen in love with Friday the 13th. They think it's great. They love the franchise. They love Jason. They go, they do the sound, and so all the time. And it was Friday the 13th in October, and they're like, "Guess what we're doing?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "We're binge watching the 3 movies." So they were going to binge watch the 3 movies. And the minute they got home from school, they started them. And now, I actually ordered the 4th one off of Amazon the week before. I was like, and it's supposed to be 2 days, and it's supposed to come out on the Tuesday. And it came out, and then Amazon told me, "Hey, we're not going to get that to you till like the 1st of November." Which I was like, "What? Amazon Prime?" But, it's like, what the heck, But for some reason, they declined. They're not sending it to me for a bunch of weeks, so I killed it. But we did get to watch the last Friday the 13th Part 3 with them, out of the 3 we own. Because it's just, they didn't get through them fast enough, so when we got home, we were able to watch that when we were having dinner. Friday the 13th Part 3 is so fun, because it's supposed to be 3D, and we don't have 3D TV, but I wish we did, only for this movie. Because the 3D effects are ridiculous. Like, you could tell, they do so many things, like sticking things up into frame, so that it would be 3D. It's just silly, and it's great, and it's when Jason finally gets his hockey mask. So it's just such a fun film. I have to give it 3 out of 5, 3 beards out of 5. It's fantastic, and silly, and dumb, but it's great. And right after that, I made them watch another film. So they watched 3 films. They're like, "We don't want to watch." I'm like, "No, we got to watch one more film." And there's a reason. And so we watched The Devil's Backbone, which is say it with me, Guillermo del Toro film. It is one of his Spanish-speaking films. And it takes place in the Spanish Civil War, which was when Pan's Labyrinth also takes place. It's kind of a companion piece with Pan's Labyrinth, he said. But it's about this orphanage and a boy that's dead. And there's a ghost and things happening in the Spanish Civil War. It is probably one of his most personal pieces. It's beautiful. Guillermo has said that he thinks, because we're probably going to use his first name. Because you retweeted my tweet, but that's the point. But he said this is his favorite film. Like, out of all the films he made, this is one of his favorite films. And it's beautiful. It looks great. The ghost effects are so well done. Especially, it's 2001 film. So, there's no CG, right? There's no, they couldn't do a lot of the stuff, or maybe there's CG, but it's very limited because there's not a lot of money for that back then. It's just so good, and I love it. My daughters loved it, and we give it 4 beards out of 5. Now, there's a reason I showed them so much Guillermo del Toro stuff, and I'm going to quickly just tell you, but I'm going to be doing a special this week where I talk about it. I went to, with my family, they didn't know anything about this. I booked tickets. There's this thing called At Home with Monsters, which is, Guillermo del Toro has a thing called Bleak House, which is where he puts all his special effects, creature effects, mock-ups, models, sketchbooks, and then anything else that he loves. So full-size statues of Frankenstein, everything he's collected over the years he has in this one place called Bleak House. And he put this thing on tour, and it only went to 3 cities. It went to Los Angeles first, and now it's come to Toronto, and then it's going to Minneapolis. I don't know why Minneapolis, but that's where it's going after. But it's in Toronto till January, and so I got tickets secretly, didn't tell my family, and then got them. They've seen some Guillermo stuff, so I made sure they got some more. So we saw 4 Guillermo movies in a week and a half to prep, and then I took them to that. So there's a couple of pictures there. I'm going to be doing a special BMG Radio special this week where I just talk about it and show all the pictures we took as a family and how awesome it was. And, it's beautiful. So, yeah, that's why all the Guillermo del Toro stuff. Last up, we got Q&A. So, I got a few questions this week. Some serious, some funny. So, first one was from my friend Natalie Ann Williams. And she says, do your beard powers and hat powers come from the same source? Or are they 2 different things? 2 different things. Hat powers obviously come from the hats. I don't have any... The hat power all comes from the hat source of power. It's like the hat force. It's like the speed force, but it's the hat force. The beard definitely comes from me, but the hat power which I only look good in one hat, and that's all I own. I had two, the same looking hat. My daughter stole one, so there you go. She has lots of hats. Stole one of mine anyways. But yeah, they come from two different places, for sure. Next up, Mark-Eric Kanye Bardot asks, do you speculate there will be any deaths in the next Star Wars movie as far as our main cast? No, I don't speculate. I don't know. It doesn't really worry me. So no, I don't. If you said, please speculate, I would have, but you said, do you? And no, I don't. So that's that. Zion asked me what movie I wanted to watch overall. She still doesn't even know what that means. So I'm going to say for the rest of the year, the movie I want to see most, although Justice League would be there, the movie, speaking of the fact that I've been doing Guillermo del Toro stuff so much, the movie I want to see most this rest of the year is The Shape of Water, which is Guillermo del Toro's new film, which he's currently showing off in film festivals around the world. Yeah, I want to see that movie the most. Then Justice League, and then probably Star Wars. So, Luke from Razorwire Reviews asks, my favorite Ghibli movie, or Ghibli, Ghibli, I don't know why I said Ghibli, Ghibli, my favorite Studio Ghibli. If you don't know, Studio Ghibli is one of the best animation studios in the world, and my heart says Totoro, but my brain says Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Yeah, so I'm going to say Nausicaa. Although Totoro is just awesome on every level. Yeah, we're both Studio Ghibli fans. Anyways, and last question was, again, from Zion. She said as too. What anime do I want to watch the most but have not yet? I have been told many, many great things by my daughters about Attack on Titan. So that's the one I want to get into. I'm currently watching Fairy Tail because I've been told to watch that. I want more One Punch Man because I love that and stuff. But I'm not watching a lot of anime. But I've been told by many people that Attack on Titan is the thing to watch. So that is what I want to watch. Yeah. So that's it from BMG Radio. Yeah. Tell me, have you seen any of those movies? Any of the thoughts? Anything? I dare you to comment because no one wants to comment. But I'd like some comments. Comments are always nice. Not that I'm begging. Please comment on my video. Give it a thumbs up. Or if you're that one person who didn't listen this far, who likes to thumb down me, go ahead and give me that thumbs down. Knows that you care. But yeah, thanks for listening if you've gotten this far. And look out for that BMG special on At Home with Monsters, the Guillermo del Toro exhibit at the Toronto, it's the AGO, which is in Ontario. Yeah, I can't even speak. The Art Gallery of Ontario. So yeah, look out for that coming this week. And there's a dog. Stay bearded, and as always, you'll told safe.